Hi, I'm Max Smith, also known as Thomas Miller, and this is Anything Goes by Max Smith, Season 3, Episode 11, and I'll be talking about the tension between Russia and the United States and China. Let's talk about that. Absolutely 100% correct. You heard me correctly, people. I am talking about the tension between China, Russia, and the U.S. and how it's just building up and all sides are just flexing their muscles. Okay, part one. What's really going on over in that part of the world, in Asia and Russia? And why is Ukraine all of a sudden stuck in the middle of this? Well, let's give you a little bit of history, people. Let's give you a little bit of history. After the Soviet Union fell, the United States promised they would not extend NATO past where it currently was. Well, lo and behold, oops, we broke our promise, and now we're expanding NATO, and the latest country that either wants to join or are we forced to join them? It's not really clear on whether Ukraine wants to join NATO or wants to be a part of NATO. That really hasn't been talked about, so I really couldn't tell you, people. So I'm just being honest with you at that point in time. I've not heard anything about it. I've not seen anything about it. But that is the reason why Russia, Putin, who is the leader of Russia, are up in arms. Literally, they're getting the tanks closer and closer and closer. The soldiers closer and closer to the Ukraine border. Why? Because they want to have a presence in Ukraine. They want to regain all the territories they lost after the Soviet Union fell. Well, the United States and our allies, we don't want that. Well, the government, the people, majority of this people, man, would rather see diplomacy, which is the number one thing you're not going to hear about on mainstream media, man, is diplomacy, people. Diplomacy, diplomacy, diplomacy. You're not going to hear about it. Not one little bit. They're not going to talk about diplomacy. They're not going to focus on diplomacy. It's, okay, 200,000 troops or 280,000 troops. Who can flex their muscles first, man? Who's going to fire first? Oh, we put soldiers up here. We'll make sure that Russia doesn't fire first. It's literally a pissing contest, man. It's flexing muscles, and that's what you hear on mainstream media, man. It's, oh yeah, they got big troops in. Okay, yeah, no, you better not do that. We'll send our troops after your troops. And Ukraine is stuck in the middle of this. And what all they want, the Ukrainian people want, is they want peace. They want peace. They want diplomacy. They want to do this peacefully. They do not want the weapons, as far as I can tell, that were given to them and to other allies. They don't want this war. They want to do this peacefully. They want to resolve this situation peacefully. They want to do this peacefully. They do not want war. That's what else you're not going to hear about in mainstream media about the whole thing is Ukraine, man. They're the real victims here. They're the ones in the middle of this. Russia, yes, they're being sanctioned, which is crazy. They should not be sanctioned that hard. It should be the oligarchs. It should be people in charge, but not the people. So we need to lift the sanctions. We need to go with the diplomacy route and not keep on building up soldiers and kind of dwindle down NATO back to where it was before all this happened. So that's what's going on, people. That is what's going on. And another thing that you don't quite get all the time is, oh, that's right. China is trying to also get themselves in the spotlight. China is also flexing their muscles with the U.S. So it's literally this triangle going around here. You got China, you got Russia at this part of the triangle, and then you got this part of the triangle. Down here is America and their allies. You got these war games, these test exercises in China with the U.S. doing their tests in Japan, and you got the Chinese doing their test games, their war games. And it's just a flexion of the muscles, people. And you're not going to get that on mainstream media. So now, part 2. What can we do, man, as Americans? What can we do to help put the pressure on Joe Biden, Joe Manchin, Congress as a whole? We could step and say, hey, we would rather have diplomacy. We do not need to continue sending weapons and go into war constantly, man. Because what does that solve? It solves nothing, people. So write your congressman, write your congresswoman, write your senator, write the president of the United States, call the president of the United States, hold rallies, people, and demand we go to diplomacy and leave war to an absolutely last resort, because that's what it's supposed to be. An absolutely last resort. Very last resort. If no side budges, if the other side starts to fire, then we fire, man. But we don't start the war. We back off. We do diplomacy. So that's what we need to fight for, people. That's my call to action. If you're an American citizen and you're watching this, for Pete's sake, tell your representative that we do not need this. We do not need another war. Because not only will it make that country suffer, Ukraine, but it's going to make American people suffer as well. Because we're going to get caught up in another endless war that we do not need. And we'll wind up spending money, more money going into the war. And guess what? Then there's less money for the American people to make the American people life better. Which is a topic I talked about earlier. On numerous occasions. That we need to make America's life better. Yes, we should be there for our allies, but we should also build the infrastructure. So instead of wasting money on endless wars that gets no one anything and makes everyone's life terrible, fight for equality here in America and around the world. So if you truly believe, like I believe, then tell your representative that no war, man. Hold the carrot, man. Say, hey, you want this? Then no war. You want this? Then no war. Hey, we did it once before, we could do it again, people. I mean, if you look at Lyndon Johnson, man. Yeah, he was a right wing. But Martin Luther King was able to get LGBT. He was able to go and say, hey, da-da-da-da-da. And was forceful and knew what he was doing, man. That's who Martin Luther King was, man. And we need to do the same thing. We need to do likewise. We need to embody Martin Luther King Jr. And not just quote him when it ever seems convenient, but encourage our fellow citizens to stand up and say, hey, you gotta do what's right by the people, what's right by the mighty interest. And part 3. So to wrap it all up, the big take is, mainstream media, all you're seeing is flexing. Go to war, go to war, go to war. We go to war. Progressive news, it's Ukraine is getting stuck in the middle of this. They want diplomacy, and China's trying to take the spotlight off of Russia so they can be in the spotlight and be the boogeyman. And the United States wants to do that too, make China the boogeyman. But Russia keeps on getting in the way, and we don't do diplomacy. And people, we also need to stand up for those who feel that they have nothing to stand up for, that they feel like there's no reason to fight anymore, when they're wrong. I believe that there's plenty to fight for still, politically, not with fists or weapons. I'm Max Smith, and this has been another edition of Anything Goes by Max Smith, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.